Alright, so real quickly, we're just going to run through the settings that I'm using for SVM, or the Server Value Modifier, which is a little mod for single-player Tarkov that allows you to tailor the experience exactly the way you want to play it. So as we go through the items here, I'll just explain why I have things selected the way they are, and I'll give a brief rundown of each thing. So every section is not active unless the little power button is pressed, so as you can tell, for some sections I don't have any of the mods capabilities in play, so we'll just go through each section real quickly, especially the ones that aren't selected. I'll just run through those. So firstly, for inventory and items, the only things I have selected here, everything is defaulted to this X symbol. So the only thing I have selected here is remove backpack restrictions. Like it says, it allows putting any items into any backpack. So happy looting for you in Tarkov. There is nothing that is restricting you. If I was able to pick up the entirety of Killa's corpse and put him in my backpack, I would not be restricted anymore, even though that would be pretty funny. No, you can't pick up corpses and put them in your bags, but I think you get the point. Anything you can pick up, it can now go into your backpack. There is no restrictions like there are in live Tarkov. Remove secure container filters, same concept as the backpack, except for your butthole. Your secure container can now contain anything, so there are no restrictions on items you can put in there. There are certain items that you used to not be able to be allowed to put in there, so now we're going to do that. The next item here is removes the can't be dropped in raid tag. Just like it says, allows to drop anything inside the raid. So in live Tarkov, there are certain items you can't drop without them being destroyed. So we're not playing live Tarkov. There is no RMT, so there is no reason to have this, so I'm just removing this because I don't see a reason for it to be here. And as you can see, there are other things on these tabs. This is the miscellaneous section. You can change the amount of currency are allowed per stack. I might change that down the road when we get super rich, but right now I don't think it needs to be done. You can change individual items here. I'm not going to get that intense. You can change the multipliers for certain things such as item weight, experience, etc., etc. You can change the uses for keys, for key cards, the amount of uses. You could even turn on infinite uses for keys and key cards, but because we're playing offline, I think it's more than agreeable that we have destroyable keys, just because, again, we're going to be doing lots of looting. There's no reason to change any of that. And then you can also change the amount of ammo in stacks of rounds. Again, I'm not super concerned about that kind of stuff. I really just want a genuine-ish Tarkov experience, just in a slightly more fun, not having to worry about hackers or bullshit netcode or bad connections, any of that stuff. And I say that as somebody with a pretty good connection and someone that really doesn't have a lot of the similar hardware problems. I've got a pretty beastly PC. It might not be the biggest of a beast, but it handles Tarkov very well. And even I'm just looking for as close to a Tarkov experience with a little bit of tweaking. But judge me in the comments, if I'm doing something that you think is a little too much. I know a lot of people like to play single player with a lot more hardcore implemented into it. As you'll see as we go through this list, there are a lot of things you can change to make the game very hard. But again, I'm just looking for something to have some fun with. I'm certainly not done with live Tarkov, but for now I certainly am, for reasons that we don't need to go into in this video. In the hideout section, there's nothing here I want to change. Stash, regen, building amounts, all this. None of that's really my concern. Under traders, I'm only changing one thing at all in this entire list. There's a lot of things you can change, but the one thing I am going to change is fences settings. Right down here it says new stock time in minutes. This used to be 5 up to 60, meaning that it was a crapshoot between 5 and 60 minutes when his inventory would reset. And in live Tarkov, his inventory resets every 4 seconds. So there's really no reason to have it so high in single player in my mind, because it's not like that in live. It's constantly shifting and changing. I was actually going to keep this at 1 and 1, but I decided just to keep it at 5 minutes. So that way, every so often, there is a little shuffle of inventory. So I can't just sit there and peruse through his items. They will vanish eventually. If it gets too easy to get certain things from fence, I am going to reduce it to 1 and 1. just to force myself to not rely on fence for certain gun parts, and instead to rely on the raids to do that. Under trader services, as you can see, there's things for your insurance, for repairing, this is the healing after raid, all this stuff, not really that concerned with. The only thing that I'm changing is that each side apparel is unlocked, meaning that whether you're USEC or Bear, you can buy clothing for each side. And I really love this, and I wish it was in Live Tarkov. I think it would be pretty cool if you could buy the other side's clothing for a taxable amount of money. Make it a little more expensive to buy the other side's clothing for whatever bullshit reason. It's a nice way to money sink. Tarkov, it's really easy to make rubles and dollars and euros, so I would love to see them eventually put that in the game. But I'm sure with the way Tarkov's going, they'll just put it under microtransactions. Moving along, right? So that's the only thing I'm going to change there. Under looting, there's nothing I'm going to change in here. I'm going to play with the vanilla loot settings for now. You can change the frequency of not frequency, but the multipliers of loot in containers and that loosely spawn. In containers it does feel kind of low. I have been playing single player Tarkov for a little while now, for at least 2 years. I've been maining it for about a year, not gonna lie to you. Judge me all you want. Live Tarkov's become a hellscape for me, and I've really been enjoying single-player Tarkov as a way of keeping up the spirit of the game. And I am an EOD owner. I was suckered in to the EOD edition, and after the Unhinged edition came out, I don't know, it's kind of solidified my feeling that single-player Tarkov's the way to go. So, anyways, everything here, nothing selected. Player skills. The only thing here that I'm really changing is the skill fatigue added per point. So I put it on 0 because I don't like skill fatigue. It's the idea that you can only gain so many points before it starts to slow down. I probably don't have this set up completely correctly because the way this mod explains skill fatigue, I'm not going to lie, I'm a big dum-dum. I don't completely understand all of it, but for now I'm just going to set the fatigue added per skill point to 0, because in Tarkov, every time you gain skills, whether it's in certain types of guns, your memory, your attention, mag drills, etc., you gain fatigue. So that way you can't just completely grind down a skill in multiple raids. You do have to continuously do it over time. So your metabolism, for example, which handles how well you manage your thirst and your hunger, that is something that you can't just power level that. Every time you drink or eat something, you get a little bit of experience in that category. But if you spend all raid in the interchange just plowing down Tashankas and apple juices, trying to power level your metabolism, you are going to get diminishing returns. So in this case, we're just going to remove skill fatigue. It should have a change on leveling, making it a little bit faster, but it shouldn't be insanely fast. If it ends up being crazy, I'll come back and change it. But nothing else has changed here. I'm not changing my health values, XP, anything like that. So everything else here has just been default. The only thing I changed again was the skill fatigue added per point, which again, I could be having it wrong, but we'll try it out. Raid settings. The only thing I'm changing here is I'm adding an hour on to every raid. I really hate the idea of oh, you've got 35 minutes, get through this area. I'm kind of a magpie. I like to float around and look around. I'm a little bit of a wanderer, so I'm going to add raid time to each raid. So whether I'm running a scav or a PMC, I'm going to get a nice 60-minute bump to every raid. I've really enjoyed watching the snow gameplay, so I've turned on snow just to do that for a little while. I'll probably disable that after a few runs, but I want to at least do it for a little while because I really enjoyed the snow aesthetic. I enjoyed watching gameplay with the snow effects in-game. I also changed that co-op extracts are now all paid extracts. So since I am not able to actually do co-op extracts anymore, I could have either just completely remove them or change them in some way, and in this case I'm just going to make them a paid extract, and I'll probably update these prices. I'll probably add a couple, like a one to each of them, make them a little bit more expensive, put them in the 15k range, but I think they're okay for what they are now. I'm not changing the amount of time, and I am going to disable the the fence gift for doing a co-op extract. I think once you have it changed to paid extracts, I'd imagine it disables this automatically, but just in case it doesn't, I have it selected there. And aside from that, the only other thing that I have changed here is I also have the deploy timer. So rather than sitting there for 10 seconds, it only takes 5 seconds for me to deploy into the raid. And I have the difficulty of the AI for the moment set to easy. They are still insanely stupid when it comes to just seeing you through 14 miles of dense forest and able to one-tap you with Makarovs, but at least tumbling them down a little bit makes it a little bit more of an enjoyable experience. I was going to use another mod that disables their AI when looking through bushes. It doesn't disable it, but it alters it so that they can't see you through bushes. But I haven't installed that mod, and I think we're just going to go with this for now. And if the scavs and the PMCs, the AI PMCs, are too much to handle, or I shouldn't say too much to handle, are too easy to handle rather, then we'll come back and fix this up. And then under flea market, the only thing I have fixed in here is I raised the reputation gain from 0.02 to 0.05, including on the loss, just to make it a little easier to progress on the flea market. The reputation gain is insanely slow. And again, we're just focused on a casual playthrough here, so not trying to punish myself or do anything insane, so we changed that. And then also disabling the BSG flea market blacklist. Like it says, it will not fix selling. There are some items that might show up to be too cheap. I know that there's at least one helmet that shows up for like 8k rubles, and it's worth like, 70k to sell back to Ragman. So I will do my best to, when I see those exploits, we're not going to use those. We're going to do our best to not be tempted by the exploits this causes. I just want the blacklist to be gone so that everything is available on the flea market. But that's also why I'm considering we're gonna set it to we're gonna let it stay at 15, but we'll test this for now. If too many items are showing up for too cheap, we'll just undo this. Everything else I have not changed. Everything else here is set the way it needs to be. Repeatable quests, nothing in here that I have to change. You guys know about the weekly quests, scav quests, daily quests. Nothing I'm going to change there. You can actually change under the case space manager section the amount of space that you have in cases, secure containers, even your pockets. You can even add some items to the special slots. So for example, where you would normally carry your little markers, it'll allow you to put some of these items in there, which I actually think this is a neat idea. But for now, I already have the restrictions turned off for my secure container. I don't need or want to use any of these right now. Under player scav, I did make a few changes here. So for player scav, I was going to change the scav rundown, the cooldown rather, in seconds, but I think it's okay to leave it there for now because I'm also going to allow the scav to go to laboratory, and I'm going to change it so that all the bosses are always peaceful towards me. There is a chance of there being random scavs that are mad at you. I've experienced that a few times, and that certainly makes things, running into trader scavs can be surprising because you don't know they're trader scavs. Usually up until the last moment when they see you up close. But I've never understood this idea of the scav bosses being violent towards no scavs but your own. I wish I could set this so that they were only hostile if I had a negative reputation. But either way, we'll just set it like that. Normally I have the scav's cooldown set to like 5 seconds, so I can just run a couple scav runs. But since we're already doing a few things on easy mode, I don't think we need that. We'll reduce the cooldown naturally through quest and hideout progression. Scavs and bosses, nothing in here I want to change. You can change their spawn chances, you can change special spawns, you can change their weapon durabilities, etc. Nothing here I'm too concerned about. And then under AI PMC, the only thing that I am changing here is I'm changing the disable low-level gear PMC. So what this means is that rather than the PMC bots scaling with you, meaning that, you're at level 1, so all the PMCs are going to have, level 1 to 10 kind of trash. They're all going to be little nooblets, just like you. I don't like that, because that's not like real Tarkov. Chances are there are players that are already insanely better than you in terms of their progression and their gear, so I'm going to set it like this so that way if I do come across some Giga Chad with a tricked out scar, my chances of beating him are very slim, but if I do, the rewards are high, because he'll typically have some good armor, he'll have some good guns, and again, PMCs are not super common, but there is always a set amount of them that will spawn in, and there are waves of them that will spawn in too, depending on how you have everything set up. But the only thing I have, again, changed in here is just I want to disable this low-level gear PMC setting. So everything else is pretty much all set, and then there's custom fields and stuff, but again, we're not going to get anything that insane. And then again, you just save your preset once you're done, you apply it to your game, and you are ready to go. So those are the settings I'm using here. Just wanted to run those down real quickly. Now let's get back to the gameplay.